Thanks, Ryan, and thanks, Stephen. Any questions of Ryan, Stephen, about that particular application? No? Okay, we'll move on to Julie.
I think Doug has one.
Doug.
I was just wondering, is there a land use policy element to it, as well as water, securing water resources? There's a lot of development in Virginia and around surrounds. That's a good project as well.
That's a good question. The work that the City of Playford are doing on theirs is looking at a lot of that land use one, so we're not going to sort of repeat that. We're going to see what they're coming up with and how that works together. So that was one of the key things when we thought about the structure of this project, knowing what else was being done. But clearly the City of Playford is looking at that land use component as part of the study they're doing.
Thank you, Julie. Julie's going to talk about the application from Horse SA regarding adaptation plan for horse owners.
Well, thank you for inviting me here today. I feel like a bit full of government and research people, but there we go. On the people. Basically, we've been working with horse owners, or first of all, Horse SA works across horse owners and organisations, from pony club to racehorse owners, breeders and all sorts. Because we work on generic issues such as planning regulations, as Stephen will know historically, access to recreational trails, repairs of biosecurity, so it's issues of generic concern to horse owners to enable them to do what they want to do. Okay, so we don't run horse events, we don't run rule books, we sort of have a look at working with horse owners and the things around them. So we've had a very long history in land management and environmental aspects around keeping horses, and it is often driven by a complaints mechanism from local government, where people complain against how horses are being kept next door. So there's a lot of work on my time's just spent around that. But we have been also working in the area of climate change, just like Andrew Beer. I enjoyed his talk because horse owners don't talk about climate change. They just say, well, I'm doing things different because I need to. Or I'm worried about this because it never used to happen and now it's happening. What can we do about it? And that is the language that our members use. Okay, so I've got up there probably the three key areas. We have survey members run workshops and a lot of other things. But really emerging diseases are a worry. I mean, Cyclone Yaz's tail swung around through here a year, 18 months ago. We had 80 horses die of Kunjun in southern Australia, which is a disease that's subtropical because it's a naive population those mosquitoes came into. And you're well aware of Hendra because that reaches television more quicker. And there are other similar insect-borne diseases and also an increase in threats of diseases that can go between species. And then the related aspects that come with that we've talked about with people also apply to animals. So everything you've heard today about people also applies to animals. Of course, as being animal owners, they're very concerned about that. Emergency management, certainly where one aspect comes in, and horse owners are particularly notorious for getting into trouble during mandatory evacuations because they can't fit the dogs under each arm like do the dogs. The horses have to come too, and often horse owners are the ones that are injured or are the casualties or end up in the coroner's reports. There's quite a above average element of horse owners in those. So there's projects going on around that we're aware of at the moment. And then certainly too, most horse keeping takes place in the Adelaide Hills, typically on the small farms that don't produce their own feed or hay that lasts all year round. So they're often buying in hay, and that's getting a little bit harder each year to be able to do that. A lot of our hay is exported from South Australia, but our local hay we need to have a think about. So we're engaging with our members. We're always engaging. I'll be running out of here at 3 o'clock soon after to do a workshop with our members, just on Heat Street actually. So our members know what they want. They know that things are going wrong, they know they're having to spend money to do things differently, run their properties differently, but there's sort of no framework around that to explain to others what they're doing. So certainly a part of this is sharing stories between people of how they've made those changes. So the little cut and paste there is actually not from this project, but just shows things we're doing with other projects or other information we're putting out. Is horse owners talking to others. Monica's actually part of a field day this weekend, another workshop we're doing. Just saying things that she's done on her place to make her property more resilient to drought. She's on the North Gawler area. So it's part of that information sharing. And then also developing education toolkits. Now toolkits is a very loose term. It'll need to be ways that horse owners currently engage with each other, and they're very social. They're not members of farmers groups, so you can't just bring the Dairy Association and got everyone. That doesn't happen, okay? So you have to use multiple networks, a lot of social activity, photos of people with their horses, and opportunities for people to talk about land management related issues or climate change related issues in a non-threatening way, which is not in competitions or at events. So we're running. So we're quite, as an organisation, quite practised at doing that. And so we'll be using our champions and using our people within our membership base that are happy to share their stories about what they're doing positively in the context of climate change adaptation.
That was excellent, and I have to say from the panel's perspective, it's people's choice. You know, we're like, wow, you know, this, and it really hits home that innovation capacity. Talking about whether we should fund a project in the horse industry was totally outside our expertise, and we had no idea what we were getting into. And we made some inquiries back, and look, the reason why it got up is it's interesting. It's an interesting group. It's a group we may never reach through any other mechanism. It's a very eclectic group, and it's broadly distributed across South Australia. There's an excellent network connecting them. It's just how do you access that network. So we really thought not only has this potential to have high strategic impact in driving adaptation reform through a community who we may never otherwise reach, but it also might be an example of how we do that through other sectors. And so we found that one quite easy to endorse, and that's definitely from an innovation side. We really thought these are the sorts of innovative projects we should do.